Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope you all are doing fabulous this Wednesday. How are you guys liking the time change with the time change? Like it always wears me out. So this is the first week after the spring forward, and I never really like springing forward. So as you guys join, let me know in the comments where you are watching from and what you are drinking. I am in Georgia, the fine peach state of Georgia, and I am drinking water. And we've got a great topic today, which is always a topic of discussion: fit versus group trips. Which one makes more money? So in the comments, I would love to hear from you all what you think makes more money in your travel business. Is it fits? That would be custom travel quotes that you're doing, individual travel, or do you feel like groups make you more money in your business? And so while you guys are typing in the comments what you think there, I will tell you kind of what even led me to this discussion. So I remember before I did my first group trip, I had this thought in my head: oh my gosh, if I take a whole bunch of people out of town, it's really good. I'm going to make thousands of dollars. And it's going to be so easy because it's just a repetitiveness of a fit, right? So it's just more of the same thing that I'm doing, but it's a bunch of the same thing and it's all at once. I'm going to make all this great money. So I was like, yeah, groups are the cat's meow. I can make a whole bunch of money. So is that kind of how you guys felt? Like you guys are typing in the comments, you're saying groups make you a lot of money. That's what makes you more money, more than fits or custom travel. I often get travel advisors tell me I'm sick of dealing with individual people ghosting me, and they don't, they don't want to pay my fees. They don't want to do this, and I'm going to go to groups. And they think that selling groups is going to be sort of the magic pill that solves the problem in their travel business. How many of you guys can relate to that? I certainly did when I first started in the business, and I was frustrated, like many of you may be, thinking, oh, I just need to switch from individual travel to group travel, and that's going to solve the problem, right? I'm going to be able to create this group, and people will come, and that will be great. Well, today we're going to talk about the myths, fits versus groups. Which one makes more money, sells more, sells better, makes you more? Which one's more profitable? I've got some really great points that I want to bring to you all today. So I'm just looking at you guys' comments. Got some great points that I want to do, and let's have this discussion and let's talk it out and see what you all think at the end of this conversation. So before I continue, let me introduce myself. My name is Sunday Gardner. I come to you weekly talking all things launching and operating a successful and profitable travel business. And really the key here is profit, right? So many people love the idea of groups, but they haven't designed their groups for profitability. They've designed their groups for all the other things, but they really don't know what it means to have a profitable trip. Forget group, a profitable trip. So we're going to talk about some of those things that you should consider while we compare groups versus fit when determining profitability and which one is the best for you as a travel advisor, travel business owner, from a profitability perspective. So I'm just going to go over some basic numbers, right? We're looking for consistent profitability, which is simply revenue minus expenses. And we're not going to be doing your entire business. We're just going to talk about your trip profitability, right? Not your overall business profitability. And what we're looking at is that you are making more money than you are spending when it comes to your groups. But you know what? I'm not in business just to be over broke, right? I remember many years ago, someone told me that a job is it stands for just over broke, right? I don't have a travel business or any business for that matter just to make ends meet or to make minuscule profits, right? I want to make as much money over expenses as I possibly can. So for us, our threshold of good numbers is 30% or greater profitability. So when we are designing a trip, either at fit or group, we are looking to make 30% or greater. Now, lots of dynamics go into that. If you are not selling, you're doing purely commission-based trips and you don't have any room for margin, that profitability is even more important to you, right? So if you're a commission-based travel advisor and you're only working on commission and you're with a host agency, right? That again is going to carve out your profitability. So at the end of the day, I really am not looking at revenue in it of itself. I'm looking at the bottom line. And that's what I really challenge you all to do from today forward when you look at your trips. Make sure you're making money and make sure you understand how much money you are making on your trips. Because if you're just booking and you're looking at gross sales and you're looking at, oh, I'm going to get commission, and you're not looking at your time and the expenses that go out the door, you're probably not as profitable or as successful financially as you think you are. So before we go diving into which is more profitable, make sure you understand what you're going after. Me, 30% or greater is what we're looking at from a profitability perspective on every trip that we design. What's y'all's number? Do you guys have a number? What's the number that you were looking to make on the trips that you design? Have you thought of it? Is it something that you don't think about, or do you think of like, I'm just trying to get this, I'm just trying to hook it and book it. Like, I'm just trying to get it on the books. And if I, make some commission, I'm good. If I, sell 10 people into the group, I'm good. Are you guys even looking at the bottom line? Do you calculate profitability on every trip that you do? So yes, 25% at the moment. Perfect. I like that number. It's definitely better than 10 or less, which is a lot of what ultimately people are making on their trips, 10 or less. 30%. Priscilla, love to hear that. Awesome. All right. So we're getting some numbers in. So let's talk about today. I think I've got like 8 or 7 or 9 different factors that we're going to take a look at. So the first one is group travel always means more money than fit travel. How many of you guys believe that? How many of you all believe that group travel means more revenue than fit travel? Type a 1 if you believe that. Type a 0 if you don't believe that. That's myth number 1, that group travel always means more revenue than fit travel. 1. So 1, you believe that? 1. Somebody says 1, they believe that. 1. Okay. So you guys believe that you can make more money on fit, on group travel than you can on fit, right? And so let me tell you what I believe. So Priscilla says 0. I'm kind of with Priscilla. Right? Because the only way that you can make really more money and fit, and this is really across the board, is if you price it right, right? As long as, or if the numbers are so high from a volume perspective that you're good. So let me give you an example. I know of many travel advisors who use a vendor that starts with C and ends with L. And they use this vendor to do their group trips. And this vendor is recommending that travel advisors charge maybe $200 to $300 over the cost of the trip. And so the advisors, they're like, yeah, so you literally are selling a trip for $200 over, $200, $300 over the trip. Don't run the numbers. You don't really know if that's really, what the margin is. I could tell you $200 over cost is like not a lot of margin at all, right? Profitability, not to take into account the amount of time it takes to coordinate a group trip or what have you. That those numbers are really bad, just $200 over cost. And if you have a fit and you design a fit trip and the commission is, you're getting 15% or 18%, right there, it's going to be more. So just out of the gate, unless you have the volume of numbers it takes to really make it worth your while. I mean, I literally went to Dubai in just July of last year, And one lady, she took, I don't know, 40 people to Dubai. I looked at her sales page and she was selling. I know what the cost of the Dubai trip was, and I know what she sold it for. And so she's making like a couple $100 over the trip, and she was dealing with 40 people out of it. It was a nightmare. Like I can imagine. I had 10 people on the trip, and she had 40 people on the trip. It was a hot ass mess. Just like seeing her run across the, like when we were doing the dinner cruise, and she's running across trying to get all those people coordinated, just the stress alone. And I want to say after it was all said and done, it was less than $10,000 that she made on that trip. And I'm like, for all of that work, not to mention what it took to get those 40 people out of town. There's no small feat in terms of time, coordination, and the like, right? So all of that to say, just because the numbers may look good, if you're not making your margin and you're making $10,000, I would argue, how much time have you spent to make that 10,000? Don't get me wrong, $10,000 looks good on paper, right? And again, I don't know if that was her take home. I'm calculating. I don't know what her expenses were. I don't know what she included and what she didn't include. But my point is, just because you've got a group, it doesn't automatically mean that you are going to make more money than on a fit. Because if I sold that same trip and I consistently sold that same Dubai trip that maybe cost me $1,000, and I'm selling it for $2,000, $3,000, that same trip and fit, and that is what I focus on, I absolutely could make more money than the lady who just did, a 40 trip craziness, had a group trip, had 40 people on that trip, and it went through hell. And it doesn't take me anything to curate a trip that is on my signature list, and I know how to book it. I'm using the same vendor, I've got the same itinerary. All I'm doing is plugging and playing. Does that make sense? So if you don't know the numbers, in and of itself, a group trip does not mean that you're going to make more money than a fit. It's all about the way that you price it, right? So you have to understand the dynamics of the numbers to really determine profitability. Just by virtue of you having a group trip does not mean more money. It effectively, you can guarantee you it means more headache, but doesn't necessarily mean more money. Pricing, understanding the numbers of the trip is what's going to dictate how much money you make on any trip, that be it group or fit. Make sure you understand the numbers. So the price point, your margins are going to dictate that. Your how much you're selling it for, right? It's really price. No matter how much I slice this, it's price. It's how much you're going to sell it per ticket, per seat, per whatever, per booking. That's what's going to dictate that. And the more that you can influence that by selecting suppliers that allow you to minimize your cost and increase your margin, that's the factor, not group versus fit. So that's number one myth. Number two, the more people in a group, the higher the profit. I just gave you an example. 40 people on that trip. I had 10. I think I made more money than her, right? And I sold to travel agents. And do you know why? It's because the pricing is what matters. It is the only thing that matters when it comes to you deciding on profitability. I do not want more people. I don't want more people on a group trip because it's going to make me more money, I think, because more money, more people equal more communication, equal more coordination. I think I even have that. I wrote that down. So that's like my future one is it's more planning, it's more coordination, upfront coordination, it's more marketing, it's more everything. It's more of your time upfront. And what we're not doing when we're planning these group trips is we're not calculating the amount of time it takes for the agency to develop the trip, coordinate the people on the trip before they go out of town, and then the management, right? Because even if you're not out of town with those people, that's more people at the same time that potentially have issues that you need to ensure that they get managed. So they're either calling you, somebody's calling you. I'd rather, particularly if it's a large group, I want to be on site, or I want to have my representation on site to manage issues, because it's all the little things that could go wrong when it comes to managing a group. All right, so the second one is the more people in a group, the higher the profit. But really the thing that I want to really highlight in this point is that large groups, they absolutely can get you economies of scale, right? You can get better pricing. You can get better pricing. You if you plan it right and you coordinate it right, it all, the numbers should all make sense. But what I can tell you is just what I said, is it takes more effort on your part to pull it off. It takes more resources, communication, and the margins can be slimmer. You make one mistake in your pricing, and I've done this before, right? I mean, I am human and I am a numbers machine, even an Excel guru if you ask me on any good day. And you miscalculate one thing and you're upside down. And then you just multiply that times by the number of people who are there, right? You forget this one piece of information. And I'm going to tell you the error that I made one time is I miscalculated my credit card processing fee. I don't know. I don't remember what I did, but I miscalculated the processing fee. I think that there was two processing fees. I had a processing fee with the vendor and I had a processing fee because I didn't go through some route and I calculated a discount that I didn't get, and that completely ate into my margins. I already had pretty slim margins, and it ate into my margins. I didn't lose money, but it ate into my margins because of the miscalculation on the processing fees. That right there can eat your stuff up. Now you could say, well, I don't process it Sunday. I get credit cards and the money goes straight to the supplier and what have you. Let me give you another example. So fine, you don't do the processing. Do you calculate all of the things that you do? Do you send gifts? Do you, like we do gifts on all of our trips. We do client gifts when we do our group trips. So I have an additional expense when I do group trips that I don't necessarily have when I do fit trips. Now, I send thank you cards and I send special mementos. I make sure that they're nice things planned, but I usually don't pay for out of pocket. Now, if you forget to include that in your pricing of your trip, that's another margin item that gets included. So it's super important that you account for all of the components when building a package, group, or fit to ensure that you've accounted for everything. Processing fees, gifts, taxes, I mean, you name it, just make sure that you've covered it. So if you make one small error in your calculation in a group, that equals it multiplied by the number of people in the group, and you potentially could lose money. Whereas if you make a mistake on a fit, right, that's one time, hopefully you learn from it, and the next time you sell that trip, you don't make that same mistake. So that is number two. Number three is groups are easier to sell. How many of you guys think that groups are easier to sell? Type a 1 if you think groups are easier to sell. Type a 0 if you think that they aren't easier to sell. Yes. So somebody said, and I have almost done that as well. Calculated. Somebody wrote that they calculated it in euros versus US dollars, and I remember getting a quote when I was doing a Spain trip, and got the quote in euro, and didn't do the conversion. I caught it before I actually priced it out, but didn't do the conversion. And that right there, that US to euro or any other person's conversion could definitely eat it. That's a really good one. I like that one. Yeah, so 0, you guys are saying, no, it's not easier to sell. You're right, it isn't. Groups are not easier to sell. They're harder to sell, right? How many, when I first started in the business, I put together groups all the time and sold 0, right? I'll never forget, early in my career, I partnered with a travel advisor and we sold Essence. I didn't know anything about selling Essence. You know, we contracted the room and we didn't sell any. I didn't market it. I didn't really do anything. We put together a Facebook group and it just fell straight on its face, right? We didn't because we didn't really put together a marketing plan for it. And so at the end of the day, if you do a group, what's required for you to be successful in a group is, it's not only the upfront planning that it takes for a group, is that you've got to have a strong marketing plan, a strong target audience identified, market planning identified, structured sales process. Like all of that matters when it comes to a group. Do you have to be that structured when you do a fit? Absolutely not. As long as you have a way to attract strangers, your sales process, I think it's important from an operational perspective to have a good sales process. But do you need to have all of you, like, do you need to have a sales page? Do you have to make sure that the buy button works? You don't have to do all that when you're doing a fit. So is it easier to sell a group? Not when it comes to the upfront work. If you're doing this on repeat and you've done it for years and you're selling the same, particularly if you're selling the same itinerary every year, which I recommend that you do if you guys are selling groups. If you sell a group and you've got a destination that has done well or moderately well, sell it again. Sell it again next year. Sell it again the next year. Keep selling it. Don't just do a group trip to a destination, particularly that does well, and not sell it again. It should then become a signature offering that you do every single year. And then what you should be focused on is how to market it better every year so that you can get more people sold into it. I would say the same thing about fits as well. If there's an itinerary that you like, your client love, why not sell that to more clients? Why not sell that repeatedly? Package up that itinerary and create a signature fit itinerary that people can buy all of the time. I want to go to Aruba. Okay, you pull out your Aruba itinerary and boom, this is what you've got. Unless somebody asks for a very specific, hotel, create yourself a list of itineraries with vendors that you love, 5 days, 7 days, 3 days, and those become the packages that you sell for fit. So you sell it like a group, but you still sell it only to fit. So either way, you already know the numbers and you go. So this is more of a like myth than a, recommendations list at the same time. But what I will tell you is, I don't think groups are easier to sell. I think they're harder. And I think that they cause a lot more stress for people who are not prepared, right? And I don't mean prepared from a planning perspective, because I think a lot of advisors spend a lot of time planning for the group trip. They plan, they meet with the vendor, they're talking, they're canoodling, they're figuring it out, and they're doing all this stuff up front, but they've done zero planning for marketing the thing. They have no idea who they want to sell it to, and they just they open it up and they launch it, and it falls flat on its face, and then they're bummed out because you spent all this time planning for the trip, but you've spent no time planning to sell the trip, no time planning to market the trip. You've got no one to sell it to. You have no one to market it to. So what you've effectively done is you've created your own recipe for disaster by not putting the same amount of effort that you put in curating and designing the trip in planning the marketing and selling of the trip. You need to put as much, if not more, effort in marketing a group trip than you do actually designing the trip. And, I have worked with many advisors, and many advisors will sit down and we'll talk about their trip plan for the year. And they'll tell me, I've got these 4 trips and I want to do. And when we start working together, it takes them months to get that doggone thing hooked and booked, right? Meeting with the vendor, going back and forth with the vendor. And all of that time, had we not worked together, they've done nothing to build up an audience. They've done nothing to figure out who it is that they want to sell this trip to. Without that work, every trip, most of the trips, unless of course you already have an audience to sell, it's gonna be hell selling it. You're gonna be talking about it to a bunch of to the black void that is the internet, right? You've got to create these groups with a target audience in mind. You've got to think about who is it that's going to want to go on said trip, and how do I get in front of them, and how do I become the number one person that they're listening to every single day, every single whatever. And so when I get ready to drop this trip, they're going to be like, OMG, I want to be there. That is what you've got to do when it comes to selling groups and selling your services. So really, groups are not easier, particularly if you don't have an audience. So people, that's the first thing I ask my clients is when they tell me they want to do group trips, I'm like, who are you going to sell it to? First I ask, do you have friends and family that want to go? And they'll tell me, I don't want to deal with my friends and family. Okay, I'm like, so how what's your list look like? Who's on your list? How many people do you have on your list? Do you have a group? Do you have a community? Do you have somebody to sell it to? And if they tell me no, then I'm like, okay, we can do a group, but you've got to create a community or a list of people to then market this group to. Doing it to a vacuum or creating and thinking that people will come is really just, you will have done all this months planning and nobody to drop it to, nobody to buy it. And many of you have told me in passing or in meetings that, yeah, I put together this group trip, I poured my heart and soul into it, and I released it on Facebook and nobody bought it. That's because nobody knows you. Even your, I mean, friends and family know you, they know you, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to buy it from you, right? So if you're doing it to strangers, I even have people tell me, I mean, many of you may have told me this, but I have people tell me, it's like, I've advertised on Facebook. Unless you really know what you're doing on Facebook, advertising on Facebook is maybe get you some likes and maybe get you some interest. It doesn't always equal sales, right? Particularly if you're advertising to strangers, right? Because people spend money with people that they know, like, and trust. And if people don't know you, like you, or trust you, it's harder for them to want to spend money with you. So groups are not easy, particularly if you don't have a target audience in mind. Number 4, let's work with the group. I can't express this any more than I've already said, that groups are a lot of work. They are a lot of work. It doesn't matter if it's 5 people, you know, what makes a group, right? If it's a contracted group, it's usually going to be 10. If it's it's going to be 10 to 15 people. If it's a, resort or a hotel, it's going to be 10 rooms. But usually when it's like a tour operator that you're working with, is going to be 15 people, usually is the minimum of a group. And getting 15 of anything out of town is not easy. It's not, it's just not an easy thing to do. It's not that it's hard. It's just, again, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a certified project manager. And one of the things that when I was studying for the exam many years ago is the idea, the more people that you have on a team, stakeholders and all of that, and this is very similar to travel, right? The infinitely more difficult it is to communicate, right? Because all of these different people need communication and different type of communication, right? The traveler, the group, if you're working with a group leader and then all their people, if you are the group leader and then you've got the main traveler and then the people that are going with them, just getting passport information. I mean, we did Cuba and I don't even think we had 10 people on Cuba. And they're all advisors I took to Cuba, and getting their passport information and their flight information, you would think would be an easy thing because advisors know that they got to do this. No, it was hard as hell. Travel advisors are the worst, right? We're the worst at our own stuff. Getting them to get me the passport information and the travel decline insurance form was a pain in the backside, right? So my point is that just because you've got like groups are not less work, because it's more coordination at the same time, more communication, supplier, just me getting the flight information to the supplier last minute has instituted you've got to have your flights 30 days or you got to coordinate your own trip, right? That's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. So it's not less work because it's more people, not necessarily mean more headache, but it just requires more effort. And when you start getting into these larger groups, and you're doing it by yourself, you're stressed out individual. I know you are. You don't even have to tell me. So it's definitely not less work. Fits are, to me, I think all travel requires some level of work, but certainly when you're doing a fit, and certainly the more trips that you have in your bag of tricks, so to speak, the easier it becomes to be able to pull out itineraries or references to be able to give said fit custom people. So this is one of the things that I recommend for you all today. So here's my tip for you today is if you are selling fits and you don't have already 5 or 6 itineraries already built for destinations that you love, that is something that you should work on. And then that is something that you should market if you're struggling to get sales and you think that groups are the way to go. Build out some go-to itineraries that you can promote on a regular basis. And when custom people say, I want to go, You already have it in your bag of tricks to pull out. Number 5, fits are lower risk financially. So many people are like, yeah, I don't want to do groups because fits are, groups are, it's too much money. Like, I don't want to be responsible for that money. It's just, fits are way more, they're less risky. And what I will say about this is, if you don't manage your business right, no matter if it's fit or group, you potentially have a financial risk in your business that you need to reduce, manage, and get rid of, right? Which is, you have cancellations that pile up, deposits that, what did I put? I put cancellations and changes can really increase your risk as a fit seller if you don't manage that properly, particularly if you don't have cancellation fees built into your business, if you don't charge for change, that can wreak financial havoc on your business. So this can be more risky for you, particularly if that is your primary business and you're not managing that risk by having the right operational processes in place to help mitigate that, and the right model. So you don't have a fee structure that covers you for these types of changes, right? That's one thing. And 2, you, over time, that could really add up. If you're getting a lot of cancellations and you're getting a lot of change, first of all, you don't ascertain why that is. Is it something with your business that's causing this change and cancellation? Maybe the type of client that you're doing, it can wreak havoc on your business. And frankly, groups, if you do them right, they can help minimize your financial risk even more than fits, because most people, when they design a fit, they standardize a deposit. They usually make that non-refundable. The cancellations are super clear. Like, people spend a lot of time making sure those things are buttoned up on the group side, but you don't necessarily button that up on the fit side. So my recommendation is button it up all over the place, right? Make sure operationally your cancellation, your terms and conditions are solid, no matter if it's a fit or a group, and it's super clear to your clients what your terms are. That is absolutely right. You have to have, I like which Ajana Claire said, is you have to have your legal house in order, regardless if it's fits or if it's groups. All right, number 6, groups are more profitable. And I think I've already kind of addressed this, so this may be just a little bit of a repeat, but I do think that there's this perception that groups are more profitable because of volume. But I would argue, again, if you sling the numbers right, even at $200 over price, right? Even though the margin is low, if you sell enough of them, it can be pretty lucrative, right? It can be, and you'll see a look of like my stomach hurts a little bit, because again, if I have to do a business based on volume and I'm a one-person show, that for me is a recipe for burnout. So I've talked to you guys about this. Do you want to be high ticket, low volume, or low ticket, high volume? And if you are low ticket, high volume, and you're doing groups, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work to make that money up. I'd rather do groups that are higher ticket, low volume, right, and standardize the process and sell that repeatedly than the vice versa. But at the end of the day, do you see the key here? It's still the price point, right? I know even if I'm doing a group, I understand the average group price ticket that I want to sell my groups at, because I want my groups to be small. I don't want large groups, because I don't want that particular large group headache. Don't get me wrong. Some people thrive on that. That's Sunday. If you you like all that volume, you like dealing with all the people, and that gives you a rush. Everybody gets a rush off of different things, right? I like technology. That gives me a rush, right? But having a large group may give you a rush. So I'm not trying to rain on your parade. I'm just saying, know the numbers. So can groups be more profitable? As long as the numbers make sense. Can fit be more profitable? As long as the numbers make sense, right? Because I can make a fit. If my average ticket price is $3,500, $5,000, and I'm doing a group, right? And I do that 5 times a year, 10 times a year, or whatever, and that's all that I'm doing. I'm going to tell you, to be able to do that kind of volume or that number of repetitive groups, I'm going to have to have a whole team, either internal team, right? I'm going to have to make sure Sunday has a plan of action to implement and execute that number of groups to be able to hit those numbers, versus me just getting an itinerary and having a great marketing plan that's going to make sure that I get requests all the time. So it really is a trade-off in terms of what you want to work on. Do you want to work up on front, planning with vendors, making sure that it all makes sense, building a marketing plan to ensure that you can fill those groups that you design? Or do you want to plan, work with vendors, plan design trips, and make sure that you have a marketing plan that's going to attract strangers to your business so you have travel requests coming in? Either way, you see where I'm going? You still got a plan. You still got to make sure that you got marketing in place, because you're not going to sell fit or groups if nobody is there to sell to, if nobody knows who you are. So really what I want you all, ladies and gentlemen, to focus on is stop with the battle between group and fit and focus on your marketing. Focus on how you're going to get more people that you want to get out of town knowing who you are as a travel advisor, knowing why you're amazing at what you're doing. If you're spending none of your time on marketing plans, marketing or connecting with your audience, growing your community, increasing your sphere of influence around the people that you want to sell, you're not going to make any money, right? Because you're not going to have anybody to sell to. Now, don't come at me. Don't come in my inbox and say, well, I don't do any marketing. I've got a strong referral base. That's great. Keep up the referral work, because that's the way to do it. At the end of the day, you got to have somebody to sell to. So if you don't have that locked in your business, your profits are going to be low no matter what you do or what you say, right? So that is my message to you today. We said we broke some myths. Let me know in comments what you think about those myths. If you catch this in the replay, let me know what you think about what your number one struggle is with fits or with groups, and let me know and I'll respond. Let me know if you have anything. Let me know. Before I just sign off, what questions do you guys have? Do you have anything that you guys like to go over? Because it's been a minute, and I actually have a couple of workshops, so I will not be on the next couple of weeks as we work through those workshops. So if you have not signed up for our Ready to Launch challenge, that starts this upcoming Monday. It's going to be a 5-day workshop. We're going to be talking all about what it takes to actually go from hosted to independent. It's a powerful workshop that tells you all the secrets that some of your uplines may not have told you, or that will absolutely debunk some myths on what it takes to become a fully independent travel advisor. So go ahead and register for that. We start on Monday, the 18th. Great breakdown. Yes, I think that is really a great opportunity for you all, because there are some group trips that you guys may have done that really become great itineraries. You already have it built. Turn it into a signature itinerary that is a go-to, and then market that as opportunities for people to buy in. And then all you have to do is go price it out. You already have the vendor and everyone selected. So those absolutely become great signature packages. All right, with that, have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you guys in, I think, 2 weeks. So talk to you soon. Bye.